Hey, hey, hey. It's Filter Free Friday, y'all. Listen, I am so glad y'all here. I was thinking, like, what was I going to talk about today? Because, child, yesterday, yesterday night is the can't say. Last night, listen, I was over this whole week and wasn't even quite sure what to even talk about. If you're not from Kansas City, we had another one of those events where someone had put up hateful, racist signs all over. A particular neighborhood, basically White Lives Matter stuff, um, I'm trying anti-Semitic stuff, some swastikas, and one of the primary comments that was made was, "Well, who would do this?" And it was like a question, and I was just like, "Oh my God, today I do not want to talk about hatefulness." It's like it feels like I'm trying to tend to a garden and the weeds are what's getting all the water and sun, and all the stuff I'm trying to build is not getting anything. So today, what I want to talk about actually is a quote that I heard from our former president, Barack Obama, which was the most important role in the United States is not the president, it's actually the citizen. And I agree with that. I think that much of my frustration that I was experiencing yesterday was directly related to this idea that most of the people, if most people would just do one little thing, right? Like just one little thing, that perhaps we wouldn't be dealing with so much. And it reminded me of a question that I got one time in an interview. And it is still my favorite question. And the question is, what is the thing that just bothers you about people? And, if you've been trained to interview, you know better than to say something like, oh my God, people dumb, or, if you want the job anyway. And so I'm always curious what has been like the most interesting interview question that someone has gotten. I believe I believe that that question is like, "What is the thing that bothers you about people?" is the most interesting interview question I've ever gotten, because I didn't know. I had to think about it, and I told the person who asked that question, "So let me come back to you." And they did, and when I thought about it, the lazy answer is, people are dumb, people are lazy, that kind of thing, at least for me. Y'all let me know what you how you would answer it, because I am interested. My biggest pet peeve with people is hypocrisy. And I don't like it in myself. And so sometimes I'm projecting, I know, but I definitely don't like it in other people. And I think right now, what is easy for us to do is to see signs on a that are hateful and go, oh my God, who would do this? And not be able to remember the things that people say when they have you in private, right? Because I just don't believe I'm all that special. I can't be the person for whom folks say, just really hateful, divisive things to, and they ain't out here saying it to you too, right? So, am I like, do we only care about it when it shows up on our poll? And if that's true, then that's kind of my answer in an interview. And I don't know if that helps me get a job, or if that helps me get a role, or if it doesn't. But I will say that the thing that is kind of my pet peeve is also the thing that I am sometimes too. Like it is, I don't know if you've ever heard that quote, the cobbler's children have no shoes. It's like the person who is good at making shoes, their children may not have one. It's the mechanic who has a bunch of broken cars. It's the hairdresser whose hair looks a mess. It's the um, designer, the fashion designer who's always just kind of not wearing the most fabulous thing. And when I think about what I'm able to teach people around leadership and management, part of why I'm so good at it is because I'm terrible, right? Like sometimes emotional regulation is not what I want to do. I sent an email just yesterday. I did think about it before I sent it, but I was specifically wanting to say something that I thought was true and necessary and that people needed to be aware of, because in today's environment, we letting the weeds just do whatever. We're letting the weeds just say whatever. We have put weeds in the shiny spot, putting let the sun shine on it and watered. Okay. Meanwhile, the things we're trying to grow feel like it seems as if I'm noticing people are starting to believe that like the weeds are overtaking our garden. And I'm just like, absolutely not. You know, the loudest is not always the most the general sentiment. Even when you're starting to hear things constantly, just remember that that's not always what is actually true. And when I consider um just the different ways in which we talk about things, there's a firefighter here who lost his life because he was stabbed by a person, and I'm assuming that they were having a health crisis on the way to a hospital. It's like allegedly, child. I don't know half this stuff, but we found out what the race and gender of that person was like within 2 hours, and it was all over my local feed. But when I think about the ATV driver from a few weeks ago, um, it just kind of hung out in the air for us to use our biases to fill in the gaps for what the demographics of this person was. And then we learned that actually the person, um, while they were in a zip code that most of the people are black and brown, that this person was a white person. And then the reason for not having a mugshot up was, well, we haven't charged them. Weeks later, weeks later. And I still, our former Mayor Pro Tem, Joanne Collins, gets attacked here in Kansas City. I still ain't seen a picture of what her assailant looks like. I don't know how old Miss Collins is, but I would venture to say close to 80, if not. And someone assaults her, takes her purse, knocks her down, breaks something, I think. Have y'all seen what this person looks like? And so when I consider like what bothers me about people, it is like, yeah, I can't really do much about racism in general. It feels like a raging flood outside. I can't do anything about homophobia by myself, right? It's like, how do I fix that? I can't do much about xenophobia by myself. I'm not going to be able to dismantle the systems of oppression for poor people by myself. I'm not. I'm not. It's like a raging flood outside. But what bothers me about people is that many of us are standing outside with our water hoses on, making it worse, making it worse. Like the number of times that I'm still getting like videos, and I love when people reach out to me because I love people. I really do. I love God's people so much. I think it's fascinating when people like, I can't stand people. That's just not me. I actually do love people. And I love when people reach out to me, but it is exhausting when people are sending me things like, "Oh my God, look at what's happening," because I just clearly wasn't good enough at helping people to see that Project 2025 laid out in very clear detail exactly what is happening right now. Exactly. Turning the military on citizens, taking over the local municipalities, all written out in plain language. And what I was hearing more often than not was that's illegal. But does it matter if something is illegal when someone has total immunity? And why am I bringing that up when I'm asking about like interviews? Because I think it's important. I think the interview question that asks what bothers you most about people is the thing that can show you where your work is, right? It's the thing that shows you where your work is. And if I were to say it bothers me that people don't have empathy, well, it's probably an indication of where I still need to learn more about how understanding what other people think, feel, and believe. It bothers me that misinformation, disinformation can be shared like that, like that. But when something is credible, it's almost always behind a paywall. Almost always. And I just ain't paying for no more subscriptions. I got enough, like I just can't, I'm not paying for anymore. And when I think about what it means to say that what if I said what bothers me is people who won't work together, people who feel like they don't have a responsibility to educate, people who are not involved, all of these things. Well, am I going to be the one who not educating? Because if so, then that's hypocrisy. The thing I say, my pet peeve. Am I going to be the one who is not going to um, get involved, at the local level? Because if so, then I'm kind of doing the same thing. When do I go to my local school board meetings? Do I go to the council meetings? Every once in a while, I watch online, but do I show up? Because measures get passed sometimes because nobody is sitting there watching. I'm telling you. It's amazing what just shining a little light on something will do, cause people to make the right choice. Because, there's this sentiment that all politicians are corrupt. I don't know if I believe that. In fact, I know I don't believe that. There are people who have courage to say, we are not going to let hatefulness, greed, and destruction win. And so, therefore, that's why we're running. They have the tenacity to actually deal with folks who are more political in nature, are a little less integrous than we might like. And I believe that I have to hold myself to that same standard. And I am curious because I think an interview question that asks you what bothers you most about people can highlight your values, like what you value. And when you take a look at what you value, can you honestly say that every day you are getting up and doing the thing that's in alignment with what you say you value? Are you? And that's a question I ask myself constantly, constantly. And so I am interested, and I hope that some of you will share like what's been the most interesting interview question you've ever been asked, and then also, um, like what's your answer to the question of what bothers you most about people? Because I fundamentally believe that people have the skill, talent, and ability to do better, to be better. And if something bothers me about people, what is my responsibility to not control, but to be part of the solution? Because people do like, I'll give you one example. Last week, the Wall Street Journal had posted something, and the headline conflated DEI with race. It was using the word DEI, but it meant black people. That's what it meant. And I just commented and said, "Oh, it's a bad, sad day when the Wall Street Journal don't know the difference between DEI and race, right? Like storied publication, 400 plus comments under mine, but many of them were like, well, if DEI doesn't mean race, what does it mean?" My natural inclination, my very first thought is Google it. Like Jesus, it's not that hard. But the most helpful, the the action that truly is, if I'm gonna make that comment, what am I doing to demonstrate that I believe that people have the capacity to learn and grow at a higher level? And if I believe that, what am I doing to demonstrate I believe it? It take me a couple seconds to explain that diversity means different and everyone has some level of difference, and equity means fair, treating people according to what they need because everybody don't need the same thing. And inclusion means creating a space where people feel like they can belong, like the space around you. And what's interesting is then more people started coming in to help explain. And the original person who asked me in what I perceive to be um and "you're an idiot" tone, like that's what they were what that's how I read it. Might not been how they meant it, but that's how I read it. That person did shift. And it causes me to think about times when someone has given me the business in the chat, and it has helped me shift because I didn't understand the difference about something. And So while there are many problems with social media, if we're going to engage in ways that matter, because the most important role in this country is not the president, it is everyday citizen. And when everyday citizens are still surprised when we are seeing things with our own eyes, I think that's a dangerous place to be. In fact, I know for sure that surprise indicates that we don't have empathy. Here's what I mean. If empathy is understanding what another person thinks, feels, and believes, if you understand, you ain't never surprised. You might be disappointed, you might disagree, but you never surprised. If you find yourself going, I just don't understand how X, it means you have not been able to put yourself in that person's shoes, because whatever another person thinks, feels, or believes, it makes total sense to them, even if it makes no sense to you. And I'm saying all that to say, I lost sight of that this week. I forgot about the power that I have to, at the same time that I'm like learning boots on the ground and laughing and giggling, to live in accordance with my values. And when those things are aligned, I'm not burnt out. When those things are out of alignment, burnout happens quickly, because I fundamentally believe that you can't get burnt out doing the purposeful work God called you to do, which is not a yes always. In fact, it looks like no often. Looks like no often. But that interview question came back to my mind this week, because what bothers you about people is telling you something. It's telling you something. And the something it's telling you is not for you to sit around and vent about. It's for you to go inward and say, okay, what can I do? Because if we just had a few more people saying, what could I do, and taking some action on that, we might not be in the shape we in. It's Filter Free Friday, y'all. We got some work to do.